you guys. All right, let's get this party started. Welcome to Conversations for Dummies, special edition, Saturday edition, with my special guest in the background waiting. And I'm going to go ahead and get this party started. Let me turn this generic music off. This is all I can use without getting dinged. Every time I try to play some music, they ding me for it. So I'm like, you know what? Forget it. I'll play their generic music. So here we go. Give me a second. Here we go. Lady D TV presents Conversations for Dummies, where some things you know and some things you learn. Tonight, we're going to learn some things. Stay tuned right here on Lady D TV for Conversations for Dummies, coming up right after this word from our sponsors.
Vegas, where's the food? Right here at So Sinful Snacks and Treats. Make sure you get down to 4255 Dean Martin Drive, Suite G, and put your order in at So Sinful Snacks and Treats. Try out our new steam bowls or our delicious homestyle barbecue. Either way, you're going to love something at So Sinful Snacks and Treats. Now available on Uber Eats and DoorDash. Order today.
And now, here's Lady D with Conversations for Dummies. Hey, you guys, welcome to Conversations for Dummies. I don't know if you guys got the message or the notice, and I hope I'm not set for just viewing it by myself like I did the last time, but I think I got it all set right. So I want to go ahead and get this party started. So Conversations for Dummies today is a recap, a part two actually, of the one I did last week about illiteracy in America and illiteracy among the African American and the people of color. It is just crazy ridiculous. I'm going to play a couple of videos real quick, just real short, and then I'm going to bring in our special guest. And give me just a moment. Let's see here. I want to make sure I don't get a real super long one. Here we go.
So many Black people express themselves in different ways. They do it through speech, they do it through doing, and they also do it through writing. And all of that is tied into literacy. It just looks different for this community. I am the program assistant for Literacy Minnesota. What literacy means to me is building skills such as reading, writing, and even speech. This publication is important to the Black community because it amplifies Black voices, and this is why we hired Ariana.
My name is Ariana Giles, and I'm the project coordinator for Black Literacy Matters. Black Literacy Matters was instantly a passion project for me. As a writer, storyteller, and college student, I know my experience as...
Oops, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened.
So many Black people express themselves in different ways. They do it through speech, they do it through doing, and they also do it through writing. And all of that is tied into literacy. It just looks different for this community. I am the program assistant for Literacy Minnesota. What literacy means to me is building skills such as reading, writing, and even speech. This publication is important to the Black community because it amplifies Black voices, and this is why we hired Ariana.
My name is Ariana Giles, and I'm the project coordinator for Black Literacy Matters. Black Literacy Matters was instantly a passion project for me. As a writer, storyteller, and college student, I know my experience as a Black person isn't always uplifted or represented like it should be. Literacy in the Black community isn't always praised, and so my goal is to truly create some space for Black culture and advocate for the Black community here in Minnesota. We have tremendous support here at Literacy Minnesota to make all of this possible.
My name is Eric Nessheim. I'm the Executive Director here at Literacy Minnesota. When Christian brought the idea to the organization, he actually shouted it out in the staff meeting, and I thought that's a no-brainer. It struck a chord. The idea of lifting the voices of the African American community, offering them the opportunity to sort of express their stories and their experiences with us as an organization. It's been a tough year for everybody, and lifting the voices in a year like this, I think, is relevant. I so look forward to reading Black Literacy Matters. I hope you do too. Literacy is life.
Illiteracy in America, the world's most powerful country, is, contrary to many assumptions, a major problem. Illiteracy is particularly prevalent in minority communities, more so among Black boys.
A student is in fourth grade and is reading at a high second grade level or maybe even lower.
That's Devontae Augustus, a fourth grade language arts teacher whose lived experience is not an isolated case. In fact, according to an analysis by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, in 2018, only 18% of Black American fourth graders were proficient in reading. In eighth grade, only 16% of Black American students were proficient. In order to solve these literacy setbacks, many have suggested expanding school choice, which, according to its advocates, would give less fortunate parents more options, not relegating them mainly to the perceived failed public school system. Mr. Augustus has a more nuanced approach.
Some people just are not in an area where they're fortunate enough to have those options. But I do think that there are a lot of great educators who work in the public school system who are able to teach students and able to see them grow.
Sergio Brown, a veteran fifth grade teacher and dean of students who is now transitioning to high school, believes it is not only a systemic issue. He says it starts in the home first.
I think, again, it comes back to having people in these kids' lives who can help guide them into making good choices.
While the debate continues on the origins of illiteracy in Black America, be it because of school choice or the lack thereof, there are things you can do. First, as Mr. Brown and others suggest, you can begin by reading to younger children. As well, begin incentivizing them to read on their own. This will encourage and enrich their reading and computation skills as they grow older. For News Vision, this is Jay Shakur.
All right, so that was just a little bit of information about literacy in our country, especially among our Black people. And I'm going to bring on my guest. This is Vanna J, my girl here. And she is doing some great stuff in the school system. Let me see, let me fix this.
Yes, hello. How are you, Miss Lady D? I'm so glad to be on the show with you.
Yes, good to have you here. I'm so excited about what you have to share with us. And yes, I know that you are totally in the system yourself, in the school system. And we're not going to say exactly what school you work for, but we do want to talk about what's going on in the schools. And so if you would introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
So my name is Vanna J. Thank you so much for having me. I am actually originally from Oklahoma. I was on a little bit of radio myself, and a little bit of had a little bit of my name out there as far as podcasting as well. And I was able to come out to the Vegas area a few years ago and take on a different role as a substitute teacher. So I've been in the Clark County School District for a little while now here in Vegas. So it's been a good experience. I've always loved being a substitute teacher, even whenever I had a brief stint in Oklahoma as a sub. I really enjoyed it. And I love working with kids. It kind of runs in my family. My father is also an educator. My mother is a social worker. So to be able to work with people is really, I feel like, kind of just in my natural nature. But yeah, I absolutely love Vegas and the area, and I've really enjoyed being here and working here. But that's not to say that there aren't issues that we can't talk about, because as we know, being Black and brown people, you know, there tends to be issues when it comes to happenings in and around our communities. And I'm definitely noticing that there are some changes that could be positive, that could be made, especially when it comes to the literacy of our young people, our young children, and even all the way up and through the high school year age as well.
Definitely. So like I was saying in my previous episode, and the reason this has become so such an issue for me is because when I open my candy store, I have these kids, they well, they want to get stuff, and sometimes they don't have money, so they want to get it for free. And I'll ask them simple questions like, "Can you spell this? Can you spell that?" And I
Right.
found out that a lot of them cannot spell simple three-letter words, and I found out that a couple of them don't even know their ABCs at the age of 6 years old. And
Right.
different things like that. And it just really disturbed me. Like, why? How are you getting up to the fifth grade and you can't even spell a simple word like simple?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
yeah,
It's an issue. So I'm actually in an English teaching position at this time. And so I deal a lot with spelling and grammar and writing papers and at a high school level. And even though I'm not, dealing with younger children with simple words, I still see some issues with, I guess I would say, maybe the level that I feel like these kids are at in high school compared to where I felt like I was in high school. And don't get me wrong, Oklahoma is no pretty peach when it comes to education. I think we all know where Oklahoma sits on the ranking list of schools and education. They're at the bottom. They're always usually like either 49th or 50th out of all the ranked states in education. So Oklahoma, it's not like you get the greatest of educations in Oklahoma. However, I still feel like the changing of the times has had an effect on the amount that students need to know. The amount that students know at this level, I think, has changed over the years, and they don't know as much as we were, I think, expected to know at that age, if you know what I mean, as far as being able to write papers, spell words, just the simple, like you're talking about, simplistic things that you would think someone at that age should know how to do at that point. And I do feel like it's gotten worse. Now, I do want to touch on this. I think one of the problems and big issues, and I think a lot of teachers have expressed this recently, has been, the effect that the pandemic has had, and we cannot not mention that. We can't not bring up the effect that the pandemic has had on these children and what they went through dealing with transitioning to online learning and transitioning back to in-person learning. And I think that has had a large, effect on them. And especially when it comes to the school systems as a whole, because the schools are changed forever now because of it as well. For instance, I don't know, I don't think a lot of people know this, but it's general knowledge that, and you can ask your school age children that are going to school now, there is a minimum F now. And there never used to be when I was in school. And they've done that because of the pandemic. And I don't know when it will ever be gotten rid of, or if it will ever be gotten rid of. But the minimum F, I find, is going to be maybe possibly crippling and having worse effects in the maybe even near and far future for our children. And the minimum F basically just says that no matter what you do, no matter if you do your work, if you give effort, if you try, no matter what, just you get a minimum 50% grade.
Wow.
And it's on any assignment, every assignment. It doesn't matter. It has to be a 50% grade no matter what. If you turn it in, you don't turn it in, you never even touch it. And the problem with that is that means you only have to try 10% to be passing with a D. So the fact that we're only asking for our kids to give a 10% effort to pass school tells me that there's going to be an effect of change of how hard people have to try in order to succeed. Does that make sense? Like we when we were in school, if you got a 0, you got a 0. If you got a 30, you got a 30. If you got a 20, it was a 20. If it was a 25, if it was a 45, you got a 45, it was still an F.
Exactly.
But these kids are starting with a 50. Point blank, as soon as they get to school, they have a 50%, and all they have to try is 10% to get that 60D. So I just see that that's a really big problem. And I don't see, when we talk about literacy and we go back to learning to write, learning to speech, learning, reading, writing, all those things, I don't see how that 10% effort is going to help get them to the level that they need to be on, in order to really thrive ultimately.
Wow, that is ridiculous. I can't believe that that is all that's required. Like we had to get at least a D to pass. Now you're telling me they can get an F and still pass.
Well, they don't pass with the F. They have to get the D to pass, but they start with 50%, which is a 50% gain from 0. We started at 0 and had to go to 100. They start at 50 and they can get to 60 and they're good. You see what I'm saying? It's just a 10%. It's instead of going the whole 60% like we had to, they only have to go 10%.
That's ridiculous.
That's the problem that I have working in the school systems now. Now, like I said, it wasn't always like that. This has been a measure that they've put in post-pandemic, you could say, or since the pandemic has started. So that really shocked me. I was surprised that, there's probably good argument and fight for the reason why they started doing that and did that in the beginning. And I could understand maybe that on a level of having all of the kids being remote and having that transition that was very quick and probably hit the system with a very big shock, because I wasn't in the school systems at that time when it transitioned. I only got into the school systems after all of that. We got back into the classroom, so I can't speak on that. However, I will say I can only imagine that the 50% in their mind was probably the right thing to do at that time, due to the fact that so many children probably didn't have internet at home. They probably didn't have Wi-Fi, or they lived in remote areas, or whatever the case may be, low income, low socioeconomic circumstances. However, how long since being back in school are we going to continue that minimum 50% F? And how do we then wean and transform them off of that from okay, we're no longer, that's going to be a shock, because you're going from having to only give 10% effort to pass to having to give 60% effort to pass. So I don't know when or if or how that will ever even revert back to what we've known from when you and I were in school. But I just think that that's a shocker to me. That's eye-opening. I think people need to realize, if your kids are failing in 2022 in our area here in Vegas area, you as parents, like the young man said in the prior video we watched before the episode, he was saying, it really starts at home, and it's up to the parents to be invested in their children. And that's another big issue is, it really is up to the parents to be making sure that their kids are at least giving that 10% effort to pass. Because that's too easy. You know what I'm saying? Like that. If I was a parent and I found out my child's not giving that 10% to be able to pass, we got problems. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that, it does start at home. And when we talk about small children and literacy, there's a lot of things that I think that other teachers and community members and people can do and speak up and say. And I think they do try to speak up and say, in order to get things worked out, resolved, issues fixed, or just to bring new opportunities like scholastic book fairs or other book fairs, any book fairs, into the community, into the school systems, into the public libraries. So I think there's just different things that, we can do as a community that can really, help the literacy as a whole. And it's like I said, like he said, it starts with the parents really having to give an effort with their children at home as well, because you can't expect for the schools to raise your child all. We're all with your children a lot of hours out of the day, but it doesn't stop there when they leave school. The learning has to continue at home as well.
So now let me ask you this. You teach high school students, and you have mentioned to me that in most of the schools here in Las Vegas and possibly all over the country, that the high school students, because they've got that 1%, I mean that 10% thing that they have to do, that 50-50, they go to school with this attitude that, okay, I've only got to do this much, and then after that, all they do is stuff.
That's it.
They just do.
That's another problem. Yeah, that's another problem because to them, once the D is achieved and it's passing now at that point, that that's okay. Like, hey, I'm passing, so what else do you want from me? Yeah, what else do you expect from me, kind of sort of thing. And I think to speak on that, we have to say, there has to be, once again, some incentive, some motivation, there has to be almost like a fire lit within the kids to want to do better, because it's almost like it's not even a want to do. You know what I mean? It's not even, not only is it not a want to do, but it's also not a need to do as well. I remember back when I was younger, it was almost like it was a need. Like you needed to have A's and B's. Like if you didn't have A's,
if you didn't have,
it was almost as if it was a rite of passage, like you weren't cool in school, like you know what I'm saying, sort of thing. It was almost socially unacceptable if you weren't really, doing what you were supposed to. Doing well. Now there were people, of course, that acted out and did this and did that, but that was besides the point. It was a general overall, everyone wanted to do well. Right. And nowadays, it's just a general overall, as long as I'm passing, I don't really care. Right. And that is definitely I think, going to be an issue, because I think you fall along a generation of children that are growing up into a workforce that aren't ready for it. I think they grow into a workforce that's a lot lower level than what the workforce that we were expected to go and grow into, getting out of. We were expected to, try to go to college. We were expected to, if we did go to college, get an internship, start a career, and I don't think that's being expected or even asked. So this lower generation of children, I think that also they don't. I would like to see the demographics of Black and brown young people and their licenses, like when they get their license, because a lot of Black and brown young folks that are in the high school level don't even have their licenses to drive. Wow. It's also public knowledge and general information that the school systems, which I think is a wonderful idea out here in this in Las Vegas, require the DMV to sign off on your tardies and your absences as far as school being your attendance in school, in order for you to get your license. So if you don't have if you're not attending school, getting your attendance, on time and everything, then you don't get your license to drive. So it's a two-edged thing, because one, I think a lot of licenses aren't getting extended to kids because they don't have the attendance in school which is a bad thing. They need to get in class and be in school and do the right thing. And then two, I think it's an I don't care, once again, issue when it comes to the kids. They don't have the motivation to get their license. They don't have the motivation to even want to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, just think about it, Lady D. When me and you were younger, when you turned 16, that's your rite of passage. You're getting you were 15 and a half, getting your permit right away. You turn 16, you're getting your license right away. You're out of the house. You're hanging with your friends. You're able to have some flexibility. You get a job, a part-time job. You do all these things.
You might even get a car at a young age,
at a young age, 17. Yes.
Absolutely. The kids these days, they don't have that incentive, that desire, that hope, that
and I wonder, is it just spoiling? Is it just the parents spoiling the kids, just letting them, oh, well, you can just, I'll drive you everywhere you need to go, or I'll, what I'm saying, type of thing, or what is it? Or maybe it's just the kids being super lazy, because I could believe that as well, because some of them just, like I said, the motivation is not there in order for them to even want to. So I would want to know what the numbers look like when it comes to Black and brown in our communities what ages are they when they're even able to get their license, or not able to get it, but when are they getting it? Because we know when they're able to get it, but when are they actually getting their license?
And you know what? it's
seniors and they don't have cars and they don't have
yeah,
licenses. And then that's
and it's sad
astounding
to
to me
say,
because I
yeah.
was young driving, you know.
Yeah, me too. And it's really sad to say that a lot of times the young kids, they don't have good role models at home. They don't have a father figure, or they don't have a good mother figure. They're living with their grandparents in a lot of cases. And,
Absolutely.
and then
And,
let me
and that's
ask you
what makes it
this.
hard. That's what makes it hard to hold the parents accountable and
Yeah.
to say it starts at home and do the work at home. And I get that. And I totally understand because of, once again, the socioeconomic circumstances from which these children are derived from,
Yes.
right? So it's so hard because it's like some of these kids, they go home at night and they have total different life structure set up at home. They might
Right.
have grandparents at home that they have to help take care of at an
Right.
elderly age. They might have lots of brothers and sisters that they're expected to take care of
Right.
at any point. And they might be left alone a lot because their parents are not home and they're at an age where they're able to be home alone. So they're maybe not even have parents at home during the
Yeah.
times they're awake and doing things. So I get that. It's not like
Yeah.
we're as teachers that we don't understand what these
Mhm.
kids are going through, because trust me, they come to class and they are tired. They come to class and I can tell by the looks on their faces that they're going through life. And I was one of those young people just 15 years ago. And I
Mhm.
understand because I was at home going through mess during high school, a lot of mess, straight real
Yes.
mess. So I get it. Some of these kids out here may not have a pillow to lay their head on at night. I totally
Yeah.
understand that.
Definitely.
But I think that overall, that's where the change kind of needs to come in. That's where the system and the community and the people all have to come together and make this all better for everyone, especially when it comes to Black and brown people and minorities in general, because I think we all know, once again, that minorities get the short end a lot of the time in life. And when it
Right.
comes to education and skill set and levels, there's a lot of disparities that still go on during
Mhm.
right now, today, like during these days and age. And even though a lot of people don't want to see that or admit that or open their eyes to it, like if you just do the simple looking and searching and just a simple Google search, you will see that these children are at a disparity. That's why you're running into kids at your candy shop that don't know how to spell simple 4 and 5 letter words that should be at their level. That's
Yeah.
why we're seeing these kids that are not being responsible for a lot of their actions when we see them in the media having issues and doing bad things and acting out, and they don't take responsibility or they don't have any accountability thrown on
Right.
them or held to them. And so I guess, in lack of not just sounding like a gripe, I wish that we could come to a solution and find a solution to these issues. But I think it's bigger than just even Vanna J and Lady D conversation. I think that getting the word out to other people and to the community and hearing what ideas that the community has to get better involved with our schools, especially in Las Vegas. As you know, we are a tourism, largely populated city that has tons bustling and going on constant 24/7 all the time.
Mhm.
So for the community to get invested into the schools, into their kids, and to the lives of their kids is, I think, what the ultimate ask just needs to be, is that, that extra spent time that you have, instead of taking your kids, away out of town or going and doing these fun things out on the strip or going and doing, yeah, we want that. We want you to support the community, but you can also support the community in other ways as well. You can spend time volunteering at the schools, reaching out to teachers, seeing what they need, seeing what staff and support staff may need. If your kids play sports, reach out to the coaches, see what the coaches may need as far as, lending a hand and helping, because you can get involved. That's, a public service to get involved
Yes.
in these type of ways. And there's a lot of ways you can volunteer, even at a school level. You can become a volunteer even at a school level as well. So, there's just some things that I think a lot of parents, if they would get more involved with their kids at the schools that their kids go to, I think would be a great help just at that level. Because once the parents start to get involved and they start to see some of the issues that, the teachers see every day and the staff see every day, maybe they can make that change at home and do some of the things at home and just make small adjustments that aren't going to be maybe hugely schedule conflicting, you know what I'm saying, that can really help make a difference. And having more parents involved with their kids at school helps other kids with no parents at school.
Definitely.
Because I was one of those kids where sometimes my parents couldn't always be so involved at school, especially not my mom. My mom wasn't always involved at school, hardly at all. So for me to be at school and see everyone else's parents there and be able to attach and make relationships with all my friends' parents, I had carried that through my entire life. I love my friends' parents to this day. They're like second mothers and fathers to me, moms. So I think that can have a huge effect on even those kids that don't have anyone at home, because you can have second children, you can adopt, some of these kids that they just want a hot meal whenever you feed your kid. They just want to hang out and talk to you and have another adult that they know cares, about them in their life and what they're going through. So there's just some small, adjustments that I think that can be made that can be helpful and happy and satisfying to everyone. And I can tell you, as an adult, if you get involved in young people's lives, you will feel like your purpose is being served. You will feel like you're doing what you're supposed to. You feel like you're here for a reason. You'll feel like you're making a difference and touching lives, because no matter what, at the end of the day, you develop one-on-one relationships with these kids that are unique to you and that child. And when you have that relationship that you can get along with that kid and you can teach them something and they listen to you and they trust you and they learn from you, and they can turn around and say, I learned this from, so-and-so, then it puts a smile on your face. It's so rewarding. It makes you feel wonderful. And when they can come to you with their issues and you can help them solve problems, and it's wonderful. It's just, it feels good. So you'll never regret or feel bad about getting involved in the lives of your children and other children in the community when you're doing it in a positive and helpful way. And I can
I agree with that. Definitely. I just want to ask you a couple more questions before I go. You've answered most of the one question that I had, but how much do you think government needs to get involved in making changes in our school system and the way the kids are being educated?
Wow, that's a great question. So I would say, I think the to kind of be easy on the situation, I would say that the government really wouldn't have to do a lot. If the government also would make maybe some small changes when it comes to I know that with Michelle Obama and some of the stuff that she tried to put in place when it came to schools, nutrition and eating better for our young people, I feel like that has been a tremendous help as far as nutrition and health goes. But I think there are maybe some gaps there that could be filled, especially when it comes to taste. Because some of these school lunches are rough. I'm not going to lie. The taste, I get it. Health is important. But if they're not going to eat it because it tastes awful, then are we really even helping anything? If they're going to starve all day through school because they don't want to eat the lunch because it doesn't taste good, then they're just going to wait until they get out of school and go across the street to the McDonald's or the Wendy's or the Arby's or the whatever. So, I think there are some gray areas when it comes to the nutrition in schools and how they can maybe do better at having both things that are good for you and that you should be intaking, especially for our kids and our young people, but at the same time have options that are flavorful. If I know that sounds like surface level, flavorful, really, I mean, something that tastes good that kids want to go back to, that they'll actually, you know what I'm saying? And it was almost as if they tried to do that, but it kind of fell off. It was okay, we're giving the kids what they want by letting them have pizza or a hamburger, but yet they use such type of ingredients that the
kids don't want it. So it
doesn't taste like pizza or a hamburger, really.
It sounds to me like those funds might be misplaced, and youth in a different area,
Right.
if they're, you know what I'm saying, to
Mhm.
literacy in the schools and different things like that.
Absolutely. But there are other things too, that I think just what, like we talk about literacy, I think just in general, literacy programs that can be not just added as an option, but maybe more, pushed a little harder. They don't have to
Mandatory.
be, yeah, they could be mandatory, but not even all of them have to be mandatory. I think
Yeah.
just some of them, if you would make it more of a viable option instead of an after school option, or instead of an in your free time option, make it more of a, hey, this is a class, or hey, this counts as a grade or a credit towards you graduating, or those types of things. I think that could maybe be very beneficial.
Yes.
There's just some little things that I think that they could do. But yeah, you're right. As far as mandatory goes, there are things that they are putting into place that they have been doing as far as testing goes. So there's a lot of testing that goes into place when it comes to reading and literacy. But I think even those could be maybe tightened up a little bit as far as like, what numbers are being looked at. Are we asking the right questions when it comes to that type of testing? Are we testing in the right areas? Are the levels that we're asking them to be at for that grade the correct levels for that eighth grade? Do we need to maybe have higher standards and expectations when it comes to some of this stuff? Like I said,
And I was thinking about that the other day about testing and how it might be a good idea to have a more stringent method of testing. I know back when I was coming up, they had testing that you had to go through, and you had to pass at a certain level in order to pass the next grade. And I think that if they do testing right now, say at sixth grade level, and find out that, or even higher, say they test at the 12th grade level, and they're testing the kids that are in 12th grade, but the kids test at a 7th grade level. How do you move forward with those kids that are testing at a 7th grade level, but they're about to graduate high school?
Right.
And they don't have what they really need to graduate there because they're at a 7th grade level. They're reading at, or even maybe lower. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, and that's a great question. See, I don't even really honestly know the answer to that question. Honestly, I would assume, and I would think, I mean, I would hope that they're not obviously passing that child at that level at that age if they're supposed to be graduating high school. That's all I can speak on, because I really don't know what the protocols and procedures are. Like, I don't know, does that child then repeat the same grade they were already in? Or are they at a such a low level that they need to go back even further? Like, do they hold them behind? I don't really know. Do they just repeat that grade? I'm not really for sure. But, I don't know how it is here in Vegas, but I remember back in Oklahoma, we had 8th grade reading testing. And if you couldn't pass the 8th grade reading test, then you couldn't go on to go to high school. So there was a big 8th grade reading test. And if you couldn't pass that, then you couldn't you had to take the 8th grade over again until you passed the reading test. So I'm assuming they probably have something to that similarly out in Vegas, out here. But could there be, like we talked about, some adjustments made? I think so. Are there maybe some gaps that aren't being filled? Or maybe there's some gray areas that are, kids that are falling between the cracks, possibly? Maybe so. Yeah.
And a lot of that, I think a lot of it also has to do with, like, one of the videos that I watched talked about how sports and different things like that allow children to pass grades because they're involved in sports or different programs, and so they're passing through because they're the head football.
Yeah. And that's not supposed to happen anymore, especially nowadays. Like, we have eligibility for athletics. You have to be eligible in order to even participate. There's pretty, I think, decently strict but fair rules when it comes to, the eligibility part of the athletics. You know what I'm saying? I think that they are pretty fair about it. Like if you fail, you have to miss so many, weeks or games or however many, and then you have an opportunity to get your grades up, and then you're back and you're able to participate again. But like you're saying, I think some of those things maybe in those cases are slipping through the cracks or not getting seen or noticed, because they're definitely not supposed to be participating if they're failing. They're definitely not. But the district overall, I think holds the punishment when it comes to things like that. I think they're the ones that have the responsibility of sending punishment down to whomever school or whatever the district or decides to do for that particular case. So
Well, you know what? I could talk about this all day. I really could, because this is so interesting to me.
It is. And there's a lot on the subject of education. And honestly, what we need to do, I think we need to get our other education friend on this subject the next go round, because who was in the school system for a lot of years was our friend Miss Diana. So she could tell us. Yes, she was in the school systems out in Georgia. So she could actually give us a lot of insight as to, her experience and the time she served out in Georgia and what she saw, because those, as mostly black and brown children out in Georgia as well. And, she's spoken a lot on stuff that has gone on in those school systems, and just in general, like, the level and state of where kids are at and where they're going in education in general. So that should definitely I'm going to suggest the next guest, and that definitely should be the next guest.
I will definitely talk to her. Maybe I can have both of you guys on at the same time. That would be great. You know what? This is sparking something in me. Maybe because I know a few other people that are in the education field. And if I can get all of us together on a group talk and just really talk about it, maybe see how we can really make some changes in our literacy in America. So you answered most of the last question that I was going to ask, which was, how do we get the word out and get the community involved? And you answered that pretty much. Getting the parents to volunteer at the school, different things like that. I think parents, businesses, I think business owners, everyone, not just, you don't have to be a parent with a child in school to get involved.
And these schools need these businesses. They need sponsors. They need businesses to invest in them, and all of that. So definitely, when it comes to businesses, schools want to partner with you. Schools appreciate your business. We use your businesses. We are, we're patrons as well and customers. So absolutely. We love that support, and that community can go hand in hand. It's a pat my back, I pat yours situation. And it works out great because it's uplifting for everyone. So definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. This has been wonderful. Like I said, I could talk about this all day. We're going to do this again. And, so you enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks once again. And we'll be in touch. Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. That was Vanna J. Talking to us about literacy or illiteracy in the schools and different things that are going on in our school system. She is directly involved in the Clark County school system here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it was a pleasure having her on. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to having another conversation about this. This might be a regular series, a regular topic on literacy and illiteracy in America, and especially among our people of color. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please share this episode with someone that you know that might be in the school system, someone that you know that might be interested in literacy and illiteracy in our country. Share this episode and the one previous before this one, and just let people know that this is a topic that we need to really discuss and get some changes going on in the school systems in America. Thank you guys once again for joining in. And have a great day, and have the rest of your weekend. All right. And I will talk to you all later. I'm going to play some of this background music, I think, if I can get it to play. Going out here, and then we're out.